My name is Doug Feinstein. I'm a research professor here at the University of Illinois in Chicago. I'm currently in the Department of Anesthesiology, which is a clinical department. I'm not doing any clinical work myself. I'm doing basic research. And I've been here for about 8 or 10 years. I currently also have a position over at the Jesse Brown VA Hospital, which is across the street. And I run a laboratory over there as well as here at UIC. And my other most recent credential is that I'm currently the president of the American Society for Neurochemistry, which is a society of about 1,000 members whose interests are primarily in the area of neurodegeneration and neurological diseases. I've been running a laboratory which is mainly interested in looking at several neurological diseases, and we primarily study 2 diseases, the first being multiple sclerosis, and the second, which is related in many ways, is Alzheimer's disease. So most of the research in the lab is basic research, and what we're doing mostly is trying to test some novel drugs or some pre-existing drugs in animal models of diseases. And when we get to the point where we find a drug that has potential to move into clinical trials, we've been establishing collaborations with neurologists, endocrinologists, radiologists at UIC and also at some hospitals nearby to do the clinical trials. We contacted Dr. Bloom to try to help raise funds to carry out a clinical trial of pioglitazone in multiple sclerosis patients. That's how I got to know Bruce originally, and because I found out about how Partners for Cure works, what their interests are, what their purposes were, and still are, which is to, as I understand, to repurpose existing drugs to other indications. So a couple of years after that, we started doing research with another drug, which also is FDA approved for a different indication, or is about to be FDA approved for a different indication. And we wanted to start looking at this drug in our mouse model for multiple sclerosis. And that's when I wrote to Bruce again to try to get some initial pilot funds to test this possibility. I said, we'd like to test this drug in our mouse model. We don't need a really large quantity of funds, but just enough to carry out a couple of pilot studies, which we did over the course of the past 2 years. And we got funding, and the grant actually finished about 6 months ago. As a consequence of that, we were able to take the preliminary data, and we've submitted it now to about 4 different agencies. We've submitted it to the National MS Society as a research grant, which is now under review, so we're hoping that will be funded. We've submitted it to to an arm of the National MS Society called Fast Forward as a clinical trial. Since we had a commitment from Partners for Cures, we were able to set up an account and start using the funds. So it's very, very fast, which is great. I mean, I wish there were more societies or agencies that would do something like that. It's not just being able to get funding into the researchers or the clinicians' hands quickly, but it's the purpose. The idea is to repurpose drugs for other indications. In many cases, these drugs have already been FDA approved, so they've gone through the safety trials. We know the doses that should be given to patients to get certain blood levels or brain levels. We know the dosing regimens that could be used optimally, whether it should be IV or oral, how often to give the drugs. So that aspect of Partners for Cures, I think, gets it into the patients quicker. So this repurposing of drugs is a topic that I heard Dr. Francis Collins speak about at a seminar about a year ago that he gave in Chicago. And Dr. Collins is the current Dr. Collins is the current director of the NIH. And at the seminar, he probably spent 5 minutes of the hour talking about the possible benefits of repurposing drugs, the possibilities of getting drugs into patients sooner and quicker. So I think there's a real nice association, concordance between what the director of NIH would like to see occur in our scientific society now, academic and clinical, and what Partners for Cures is trying to do.